Hey, everybody, welcome in. It's Friday Fire. This is where we talk about all the news that you may have missed this week, things you really need to know. Rusted Woods, thank you for coming. Sean D, T&D, K8, thank you as well for moderating, keeping us all safe. Let's jump into this. It's Friday. We made it. And it's been quite an interesting week. But let's get into the story, not financial advice, as always. And thank you as well to Larry. Larry, James, newer Patreon member here. Incredibly thankful for your insights and models. Huge thanks to you as well, Larry, for being part of the team. Let's look at fear and greed. Fear and greed is still hovering around this neutral zone. I think it's at 46 right now. And we are getting primed. What was crazy about this chart, some people thought we were on the brink of World War III. Fear and greed didn't flinch. That is astounding, ladies and gentlemen. So just think about that. And this is why I believe, and many others think, we could be primed for a rally. Despite the fact it's June, soon to be July. June is a sucky month. July is a good month. And I forgot to include the seasonality. But anyway, take it from me. July is good. And we should have some good things coming our way. Now, this is really the big story. There's a whole bunch of people that believe we could be primed for a nice little rally. All right. We are hovering right now, as you see, just under $107,000. And after all we've been through, we are still high. We need to break 112 to get to a new all-time high. But literally, the setup is almost perfect. The conditions are ripe for Bitcoin to surpass its previous all-time high, which we are like 4.5% away from. BTSE COO Jeff May says easing inflation fears, pause in the Iran-Israel conflict, and Fed is going to cut rates, tons of money on the sidelines, etc. Nothing but goodness ahead of us right now. And if it couldn't get any better, Rachel Lucas said a fresh high is just a matter of time. Wait till I show you the ETF numbers too. Institutional accumulation, regulatory progress, SBRs all over the place. Lots of good things are happening. Fear and greed, still neutral, but that will change. And then we have all this new story about kind of Bitcoin-backed mortgages in the US. It's nothing but goodness. Apparently, the Chinese trade deal is in. Again, all the setup is there. But let's look at some data. Let's look at some charts. This is so far, the institutional demand is extremely intact. And what's even more bonkers, this was not impacted at all by all of the fears over the last week to 10 days. And at the current pace, ETF inflows support Bitcoin price going up to, wait for it, $125,000, everybody. And that does not include the treasuries who are buying like mad. And again, now that the tensions are easing, the NASDAQ is rebounding, S&P 500 a new all-time high. Some believe Bitcoin's price is on the way up. And that's what we care about too. The odds of a new all-time high are extremely high. So get ready. And CZ was talking about some cool things too. And he made an interesting little observation. If you've watched this channel in 2021, 2022, I said one Bitcoin will be worth about $1 million in about 10 years. The idea was to, if you could borrow $1 million at a fixed interest rate of 2.75%, at the same time you get that mortgage, buy one Bitcoin, like $15,500, $20,000, whatever it was back then, and put it aside and wait, and then use that Bitcoin to pay off your $1 million mortgage. But now CZ says 0.1 Bitcoin is equal to the American dream. No, they're my words, not his. I'm putting words in his mouth. But he says the current American dream is to own a home. And the future American dream will be to own 0.1 Bitcoin, which will be more than the value of the house in the US. Nice way of thinking about it. I spent since 2017 talking about the importance of whole coinership. I need to dash whole coinership and pivot it to, what would that be? 10% of a whole coinership instead. But yeah, whole coin is still a good thing to have, ladies and gentlemen. And If it couldn't get any better, I'll turn off my little camera here. This looks like a Jamaican flag, which is pretty cool. I hope I got the colors right. I am a bit colorblind. Anglo Blackson, thank you as well. Happy Friday, mate. But the preferreds are on fire, ladies and gentlemen. These things are selling like hotcakes all across the board. The orange at the bottom is STRK, the first one they had. The second one is STRF, and the third one is STRD. And they are just stacking, selling. These don't impact the actual ATM for now, which is great. And a lot of people are thinking maybe there's something funky going on because Bitcoin has gone down and MicroStrategy was up very big today. And I think MicroStrategy got real close at one stage to the magical $400 mark. We hit 397.99. We got within $2 of $400. Shout out to Jim Chanos being short MicroStrategy. Remember, if MicroStrategy gets added to the S&P 500, Jim Chanos will get wrecked again. He got wrecked for the last decade shorting Tesla, got completely destroyed, had to shut down his fund, and he had a bright idea to go and short MicroStrategy. Well, I can tell you right now, he's hurting. So anyway, don't go short things in a bull market. Anywho, moving on. It has been a bit of a disaster bull run for the Ethereum holders. It's been a punishing year. Over the same time frame, if you go back in time, 2.5 years, Bitcoin is up 500%, and ETH is only up 90%. Yes, 90% is still good, but compared to Bitcoin, you'd feel pretty miserable if you held this puppy. And the capital is driving Bitcoin's rally, and it's coming from traditional finance, and it's coming from treasuries. But the problem that Ethereum has, what we've said for a long time, is they don't have a narrative. They don't have a North Star. Okay, people think it's smart contracts, but no. It used to be. It used to be the only player, and they did create the space. But it is just going nowhere fast, especially when you consider, I tell everybody, we're more than 80% through this bull run. And look where this thing is. Will it rebound? That is the question. And for those who are hoping for a little bit of an ETH pump, I got some good news for you. Who's ready? This one. Shout out to Axel. We put this cool little chart together. Basically, as of June 27th, today, the average monthly altcoin exchange flow stands at $1.6 billion. And that's below the average of $2.5 billion. But you can see the moderate flow is upticking and above that bottom average that shows you the alt's bottom. And I did say a week ago, if you remember watching this channel, I said June typically is where the alts bottom. Well, guess what we're seeing here? An AltSeason wave is incoming. This moderate flow suggests asset consolidation and growing accumulation ahead of the next AltSeason wave. Okay, the chart, the green circles. Okay, these are periods when flow dipped below that 1.6 billion. We've just gotten above that, all right? And what I like to find always, if you watch this channel, is confluence across many, many different indicators and signals. Okay, we have the Sol ETF coming. That's going to kick off an AltSeason that we've been waiting for. We've got the second half of the year at this stage of the bull run seasonality. That's always best for alts. Okay, and so much other good stuff that I mentioned at the beginning. All tailwinds. People are beginning to understand. But you know what's even crazier? This is even crazier here. I'll just turn this off. This is the total, okay, get this, total transactions, okay, explode on Solana up to a new 20-week high, okay, call that nearly half a year. But what's crazy, they are now doing north of 115 million daily transactions, but that is triple, okay? I want people to understand this. Triple all of the other blockchains combined. One chain does triple all the others combined. And yes, it's not priced correctly at all, by no stretch of the imagination. But over time, the market is a weighing machine. But typical crypto people don't actually look at fundamentals. I do. And that's why we can identify winners early. This one is the winner. It's not reflected yet in price, but it will be. Be patient. Wait for the second half of this year. Mark my words. We're going to get what we've been patient for. And let's talk about stonks for a minute. New all-time high in the S&P Mini, the Spider SPY from bar chart. People were calling for the worst crash since 1987. Yes, I was around for that one. Okay, there was a dark time, very dark time. And now the S&P 500 hits a new all-time high in pre-market trading. Okay, this is when everybody thought the world was going to end. It didn't. But not only did it not end, but look at that perfect V. Look at that perfect V right there, everybody. It's mind-blowing. It went back up as fast as it went down. And guess what? We had the strongest rebound ever in the history of the S&P 500. Ever. Okay? Golden era, ladies and gentlemen. Hope that's not triggering to some. And a little bit of AI news too this week. Salesforce CEO, this is Mark Benioff. We've seen all the big tech, Silicon Valley big tech folks really leaning into AI. Think Oracle, Larry Ellison. By the way, Mark Benioff used to work for Larry Ellison, and he spun out and created his own Salesforce.com, which is CRM system, etc. But now they've quietly been embracing AI, leaning in, embrace or die, as I say. And now the CEO says half of the company's work is now done by AI. That is staggering. Can you just imagine for a second? Okay, two things. One, what that's going to do to their hiring process. The answer is it's going to shatter it. Second of all, think about what it's going to do to their profitability. Now they can do double the work with the same amount of staff. Okay, we're already seeing crazy numbers coming, and I believe the earnings season will be very strong for big tech, for those companies that are leaning into AI right now, and it will continue to grow through the end of the year. This is the impact of AI, everybody. It is happening faster than even I expected it to happen. Craziness. And shout out to Piper Sandler. It's rare you hear me say an analyst that knows what's up. This was published by Dow Jones, but they basically came out and said, you know, I always talk about winner taking most, as is the case with Solana, etc. But here, may not be the winner take most for FSD Robotaxi. Tesla may be the sole winner. Okay, we've seen. It's so funny, actually. I just take a second on this. You know, the mainstream media has been ripping into FSD with all the FUD and everything else, that it was a complete failure, yada, yada. Who cares? But now there's a bit of revenge happening where people are beginning to document all the mistakes, all the crashes, all the errors that Waymo is making. And this has taken the world by surprise. But anyway, back to the story here. Piper Sandler Alexander Potter says, as Tesla scales its self-driving software, the auto market is at risk of severe disruption with fewer cars sold, high fleet-wide utilization, and a transition to service-based revenue models. We think Tesla will be the consolidator in the process. Okay? And we struggle to identify other winners. That's it. Game over. Even BYD is being destroyed right now. They cannot sell cars. They cannot move metal. Ford destroyed. General Motors destroyed. BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen destroyed. Volkswagen, for the first time over the last 2 or 3 years, has been shutting down factories. For the first time since World War II. Again, the car industry has changed forever, and it's only going to accelerate. Okay? They make a new Model Y every 15 seconds. All of these cars can drive themselves. And that's why we believe RIP Waymo. Waymo's the BlackBerry. It's just not going to work. And they realize it. They have admitted as much. And Robotaxi is the iPhone. But remember, the iPhone, for those of you who traded Apple back in the day like me, you have to be in the position before things really kick off. And it might take another 6 months or a year for the world to realize this iPhone moment for Tesla, but it's coming. And just as Piper Sandler said, okay, transition to service-based revenue models. Think SaaS, software as a service. And shout out to Hassan here. He had a very eloquent tweet that I retweeted yesterday. He called it We Progress, like We Robot. He said Elon Musk is a phenomena that will not be repeated again in at least a millennium, which is 100 years. Let him do good for humanity. And Tesla builds the robots. XAI is thinking. X is connecting. SpaceX is exploring. And of course, disseminating internet globally. Neuralink is enabling. A little bit of news on that too. And Boring Company is moving. Of course, Boring Company is very boring, but it's in the name. What do you think? And Neuralink, this is kind of crazy. Elon Musk says people with Neuralink brain chips will soon be able to have full body control, not only potentially of their own body, but maybe also inhabit the body, the corpse of a humanoid robot. This will give people that are stuck in wheelchairs, etc., a new lease on life. Not just the hand, the whole thing. You could mentally remote control the robot. The future is going to be weird, but pretty amazing for those in need as well. Thank you, by the way. This is from Jane Smithy. Thank you, Jane. Elon has a heart of gold. Yes. He doesn't have to work as hard as he does or create all that stuff, but he does. Anyway, thank you as well for hearing the likes. This is just a crazy time to be alive. And remember as well, one of the concerns that we do have, though, and this is the old thing, there's a direct correlation, as I've mentioned many times before, between the amount of energy a nation creates, whether it's oil or electricity or whatever else, and wealth. Okay? Wealth concentrates where the power resides. If you look at the energy creation in Europe, is going down. US is up ever so slightly. And China going to the moon. Okay, this chart basically tells you the wealth of the future will be in China. Love it or hate it, that's a fact of life, unless the US can figure out energy fast and grow it fast, especially in this age of AI. That is the limiting factor, ladies and gentlemen. So again, wherever you are in the world, if you can influence your economy, your governments, to look a little bit into the future, build more energy. It's going to be key, everybody. And a little bit of sad news too. I always say money gives you wings. And this is the latest from, I can't remember the name of the firm. I want to make sure they do great work, absolutely stunning work. Let me zoom into this so I can read their name. I forget it. It is Henley and Partners at the bottom there. Henley and Partners came out with their latest study. Basically, this is where the millionaires flee. Money gives you wings. People will not stay in authoritarian regimes or countries that are not safe or where they're being taxed to death. They simply pack their bags and bolt. They run. And the UAE, Dubai, is the largest recipient of high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals. So far this year, nearly 10,000 have gone to Dubai. And I heard the temperature hit like 50 or 60 degrees Celsius there the other day. Like 60, I think it was a new record temperature on the planet. I was like, that's a bit of a downside living in air conditioning all the time. I couldn't do that. I like natural. Anyway, I'm going off in a rant here. US number 2, 7,500 people. And Italy number 3, 3,600 people, above Switzerland. Normally Switzerland is above Italy, but that's a change. In real estate in Italy is bonkers cheap right now. And, Amalfi Coast, why not? It's cheap. Beautiful place. And meme du jour, this was a fun one. This is the homeschooling science lesson. Went really well this week. And obviously it's a distillery where you can make stuff like moonshine, if you're old enough to know what that is. Next week, marketing and distribution. I just thought it was hilarious. Very funny. Anyway, thank you to the mods in the chat. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Happy Friday, everybody. See you all tomorrow morning. Cheers, Piper, Shawnee, T&D, K8, everybody for being here. Appreciate you all. And Angle Blackson. Have a good night.